everyone. We will call the Oxnard City Council Community Services, Public Safety, Housing and Development Committee meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, if we could have the roll call and posting of the agenda, please.
Member Madrigal.
Here.
Member Zaragoza.
Here.
Chair McDonald.
Here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall Bulletin Board on July 8th, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And Mayor, if you'd be so kind to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, thank you. Please follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And that takes us to section B, public comments and items not on the agenda. This will be the time where we would hear public comments and items not on the agenda, but under the purview of this committee. And I believe we have one speaker, Madam Clerk, if we could bring him in, please.
Yes, one moment, Chair. Chair, our public speaker is not available at the moment.
Okay, if he shows up later on, we'll see if we can squeeze him back in. That takes us to item C1, consent agenda. And I'm going to ask a favor of the committee at this point. I went through the minutes today because of the way we adopted minutes on the two previous meetings. It didn't translate very well. And that's, it's happened. It was a learning experience for the committee. So I have to thank Ms. Chaparro for spending a lot of time with me trying to sort it out. And also Jason Zaragoza in the city attorney's office to try and help me understand what was going on. So with the committee's indulgence, I would like to carry that item over until the next committee meeting. We'll just do 3 sets of minutes. Mr. Zaragoza says he will work with the city clerk and see if we get a little better format. And Mr. City Attorney, do you have any comments to add on this?
Chair, I concur with that approach. I think it'll be cleaner to bring all the minutes back at a future meeting and adopt them all at the same time.
Okay, thank you very much. I know the city clerk is working relentlessly trying to get all the minutes done, but this is just one of those things where it just didn't work out well. So I learned a lesson about how we adopt things. So if the committee is okay with that, we will table this item until the next meeting. Mayor, you all right with that?
Yes, I'm okay.
Councilmember, you okay with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Takes us to item D1, Housing Department, development of an Oxnard Housing First Plan. And the recommendation is that the Community Services, Public Safety, Housing and Development Committee receive, file, and support plans for the Housing Department staff to launch the development of a Housing First Plan for the city of Oxnard. And there was a pre-recorded message and presentation pursuant to Measure M on our YouTube channel. And so staff is present. If there are any questions regarding this report, Mayor, do you have any questions or comments?
No, none at this time, sir.
Councilmember, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, just one quick, I guess, clarifying question about the presentation. I think it's great. And I just have one question about the key focus is on homelessness and how to help people that are currently homeless. But my question was any measures or help for people who may be close to being homeless. I think a lot of the presentation was getting people who are homeless back into homes. But, over the next, 5-10 years, we'll probably see more people, unfortunately, the homelessness issue is going to be pretty big in the next 5-10 years going forward. And sadly, this isn't going to be the end of it. So we're going to have a large group of people who may experience difficult times ahead. Is there anything in the works to help alleviate that issue that may arise in the future?
Thank you, Councilman Emilio Ramirez, Housing Director, and thank you for the opportunity to present the pre-recorded video. In answer to your question, Councilman, Housing First is definitely a response to homelessness. So it is not necessarily a preventative measure. It is definitely something that's responsive to homelessness, and for that matter, chronically homeless, unsheltered homelessness. There are other efforts that are afoot regarding prevention, including with the Housing Authority and vouchers and et cetera, that may rapid rehousing, those kinds of things that may be able to move forward. I'm happy to present a prevention program at a future committee meeting, but Housing First is not intended to combat prevention. So it is technically for unsheltered chronically homeless.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Mr. Ramirez, this could be an action item or it could be a receive and file. So do you need us to take an action to support these plans, or are you just looking for feedback at this time?
Honestly, Councilman, this is the beginning of a process that's going to take the better part of a year. We are starting a process that we started with actually the Homeless Commission. And so you're the second public venue that we present this. So the idea here is that we are going to undertake a maybe 6-month, 8-month community charrette process, identifying what homeless Housing First is, identifying a plan, and then come back to council in the future for adoption of that plan. We are going to come back to this committee at least 2 more times as we draft that plan and we identify how we would implement it. At this point, it's just a generic introduction of Housing First. And so if there is a question about the program, about what a Housing First really means, or what it may not mean, or what the timeline would be to adoption of that plan, I'm happy to answer those kinds of questions. But at this point, it's very, very beginning stages of a long process.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Mayor.
Yeah, the question I have is receive and file and support plans. So Mr. City Attorney, because of the supporting of the plans, do we vote on this item?
Mayor, it sounds like he's going to be bringing it back to us at least twice. So I would say this is probably just going to be a receive and file at this point.
Okay, that's good too.
Action at a later time.
Sounds good to me.
Consistent with your ideas, Mr. Ramirez?
That is my hope, yes.
Okay.
I did want to present, number one, because I wanted to make sure that the council was engaged in the early part of the process, but also I wasn't positive or sure whether there was any concerns or questions about what even Housing First is. And so I wanted to have that kind of very introductory conversation if you would like.
Well, thank you for the explanation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Then that will be the direction this will be receive and file, and we'll look forward to future presentations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to item number 2, Housing Department, award of a contract for the residential rehabilitation and remodel project at Pleasant Valley Village. And the recommendation is that the Community Services, Public Safety, Housing, and Development Committee recommend that the Board of Commissioners of the Housing Authority of the City of Oxnard approve and authorize the chairman to execute a firm fixed price contract in the amount of $757,683.20 with Waisman Construction Company, and it'd be under agreement number A8343, using funds previously appropriated from the 2019 Capital Fund grant for Section 504 compliance, Americans with Disabilities Act, also known as ADA. And this was a pre-recorded presentation done pursuant to Measure M. Staff is here to answer any questions if the committee members have any questions that need to be addressed. Mayor, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, sir. No.
Council member, do you have any questions?
Just one quick question. Great. This start the project, but real quickly, are we displacing any families? Because on the presentation, it said that we are getting rid of 2, or actually 1 or 2, I forgot one of the number, but it's a 5-bedroom unit. So are we displacing any families due to this?
We are not displacing any families. We have been actually in the planning process for quite some time. in an effort to make sure that we relocate or leave vacant when those larger units became available. We're actually creating more units than less, but if there was a unit, if there was a large family in one of the large units, we would have to relocate them. But it's been an effort to get to a point where they were vacant and remain vacant so that we can make this conversion.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. What would be the pleasure of the committee?
So moved.
Second,
Madam Clerk, we have a motion by the mayor and second by Councilmember Madrigal. Roll call, please.
Member Zaragoza,
Yes.
Member Madrigal,
aye.
Chair McDonald.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That takes us to item 3 under the City Manager's Department. Preliminary American Rescue Plan Act investment ideas, also referred to as ARPA. The recommendation is that the Community Services, Public Safety, Housing and Development Committee begins the discussion about American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, preliminary investment ideas, and forward discussion outcomes to the City Council for further deliberations. And Madam Clerk, we do have a variety of speakers that wish to talk, so if we'll start with them first. That would be good.
Yes, Chair. Mr. Mike Doughty, please unmute by pressing *6.
All right, can I be heard?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay. My name is Mike Doughty. I'm on the board of directors for the Opec nonprofit. And I was ecstatic when I read that we were included in the mock-up for the, or the original suggestion for the expenditure of ARPA funds. And I just want to make sure that they stay in place, the funds that are listed. I'd like you to keep in mind a couple of things. First of all, Ventura County has been identified by SMU Data Arts. I think SMU stands for Southern Methodist University. In 2020, as one of the nation's top 10 arts communities in the nation, out of 947 municipalities that they studied. Yet we ranked 624th out of those 900 in local government support for the arts. The 2008 Ventura County Community Foundation report shows that the creative sector of the workforce supports 21,000 jobs and generates, to me, a stunning 2.1 billion in economic activity. And it's on a par with agriculture in this area. Now that's just a little bit of background. Now, the problem is that I have been coming to the OPAC as a citizen of Oxnard in 1980 when it was 12 years old. It was open in 1968 and needed repairs are long overdue. And these ARPA funds are the answer to our prayers to get some of these issues started. The items that they're looking at are a seismic study, long overdue. Pave the parking lots, long overdue. Repair the ballroom roofs. They're
30
almost ready to
seconds.
cave in. Invest in a working digital marquee and fund some auditorium improvements, including a damaged roof. Without these, the facility, which has had low maintenance over the 50 years that it's been open, is going to continue. So please keep those funds in place. Thank you. That's all.
Jesus Torres. Jesus Torres, you may unmute by pressing *6.
Hello, good evening, council members. I'm Jesus Torres from Lead Public Strategies, and I'm serving as a consultant for the creation of an innovative youth job training program that would earn youth an industry recognized pre-apprenticeship credential in the trade. So I'm hoping you take this program for funding consideration. The Youth Apprenticeship Readiness Accelerator will allow youth ages 16 to 24 to enter into a registered apprenticeship and into a career pathway in the building trades. So YARA, as we were calling it, is composed of an experienced collaborative that includes WIOA, Workforce Development Board, service providers, organized labor, CBOs, employers, education, and law enforcement stakeholders, creating a wraparound project resulting in expansion of economic equity and increased access to quality jobs in low-income communities. And so I know that the mayor and some city staff may be familiar with this program, as we previously met and explored a partnership with the city to leverage your existing youth development programs and the use of city facilities to conduct the educational component of this program. This program would be eligible under the U.S. Treasury Department's funding guidelines under the Addressing Negative Economic Impacts, as we could work with our collaborative partners, Goodwill Industries, and the American Job Center to target those impacted by the pandemic. So we hope you take this suggestion under your ARPA funding considerations, and we look forward to meeting with you and staff individually to answer any questions. So thank you for your time.
Anthony Mireles.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, council members. I am Anthony Morales, Business Manager for Labor's Local 585. I am also a member of the Ventura County Workforce Development Board. I am here to advocate for funding for a youth job skills training program that we've developed with the California Police Activities League, Goodwill Enterprises, and potentially the Oxnard PAL. We met with the city staff and the mayor earlier this year to discuss this program and discussed entering into an MOU to use city facilities for the training and participation by youth from various city programs. ARPA funding will jumpstart the Oxnard Youth Apprenticeship Readiness Accelerator program that we've developed and put 80 underserved, unemployed, underemployed youth, especially those impacted by the pandemic, through a trades pre-apprenticeship program. At the end of the program, participants will earn an industry recognized credential and priority placement in a state certified union apprenticeship. We have a need for more tradespeople, lots of upcoming work, especially with a lot of this broadband, sewer, and water infrastructure improvements that are going to take place in the city, but not enough people to fill these well-paying slots. The Accelerator program is an opportunity to place Oxnard's youths aged 16 to 24 into high road, middle-class careers with pensions and benefits. We sent a program summary over email right before this meeting. We're happy to answer questions in the coming weeks, and thank you for your time.
Stephanie Hagiwara.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Hagiwara. I would like to talk about the allocation of the American Rescue Plan Act funding. I am with the Oxnard Gem and Mineral Society. We are a sponsor of the Oxnard Performing Arts Center, meaning our commitment to hold our meetings and events at the OPEC helped get it built. We are disappointed to see that the Oxnard Performing Arts Center was not considered a council priority in the preliminary investment ideas. The buildings need long deferred maintenance, an updated marquee, auditorium, landscaping, and parking lot improvements. The parking lot behind the ballrooms especially is a concern during setup and breakdowns at our annual event. Our participants are concerned with potential vehicle damage or accidents involving the uneven, broken pavement. We have vendors that will no longer come to our event due to the parking lot. It is easy to imagine other event planners having the same concerns. Furthermore, with climate change, air conditioning would be a welcomed addition to the ballrooms and could be added when the new roof is installed. The reality is we are all looking forward to the day when we can emerge from social isolation, but we need a place where we can safely go to rejoin society. I like to remind you that the reason so many different groups of people came out to save the pack in 2019 is a site that our memories have been made. It serves the many facets of our community, but it can do more. To continue to serve the community, to realize its full potential as a revitalizing force in South Oxnard, OPAC needs maintenance. Please allocate some of the American Rescue Plan Act funding to repair the Oxnard Performing Arts Center. It is the heart of our community. Thank you. Bye.
Alicia Purcell.
I'm here.
Yes, thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. This is an unusual situation in which the same subject is before all three committees. So I'm going to take the unusual step of repeating my brief comments so that I get to speak to all council members. I want to remind the council members where this pile of money came from. It's not free money. The federal government didn't have this money available either. It's all borrowing against future generations with reckless debt. Your grandchildren will still be paying the debt for this spending. Would you borrow from your grandchildren just to give a one-time bonus to current city employees? And we're talking about people who did not lose their jobs during the pandemic, who still receive their paychecks, still got contributions to their pensions during the pandemic. So if you're going to borrow from future generations, don't just use it to put money in your pockets today or for other short-lived benefits that really only benefit a small group of people. Use it for assets with very long life that benefit nearly everyone in the city, so that people bearing this debt burden in the future might at least see some benefit out of it. There are some really important details I didn't see in the packet about the potential use of $2 million to payouts for city employees. There was no indication of whether it's being proposed to give $2 million to one employee on one extreme, or if it's proposed to spread it across 1,500 employees or to some other subset in between. There's a pretty big difference between those extreme options, and more information is needed. If it's some subset of the employees, the public should get to see a listing of the job titles, which the city believes qualifies, and what amount is proposed for each person that holds that job title, so that we can compare it to the federal criteria for use of these funds. And I asked, this question about the number of people it's proposed to be spread across at the Finance and Governance Committee. I didn't hear an answer to that question then, but it seems that it should be something that was known before you put a dollar amount on the idea. So I'm hoping that information is readily available. Thank you.
Chair McDonald, we have heard all the public comments on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I show Armando Delgado on my list. Is he not available?
Chair McDonald, he is not available at this moment.
Okay, Thank you very much. This was put together by Mr. Nguyen, and he's not available. He's off on family time. So I want to ask the acting city manager, Ms. Ashley Golden, if you have any comments to make before we deliberate this issue.
Yes, thank you, Chair McDonald. I gather that the community that's participating, as well as the council members here this evening, have had a chance to watch the city manager's Measure M video. And I just wanted to highlight a couple items from that video to help with the conversation we have, since we won't be presenting the list of items during a PowerPoint presentation, which I know makes it a bit difficult. But from the staff report and the presentation, just a few highlights. First, we want to remind the public and the council that this is all positive. This is all unexpected additive money that we can use to help our community recover. And for that, we're very fortunate. Secondly, with Oxnard's $59 million, that's intended to help our local government recover from the pandemic. And just a reminder about all the other funding that has already been made available to different segments of the society and sectors of the economy, and the future monies that will be made available or expected to be made available. So again, the intent of this to help local government recover. Third, a reminder that this is one-time funding. So when we're looking at ways to invest this money in our community, to look at also using it on things that are only one-time expenditures. And fourth, more of a philosophical discussion amongst the council and committee here tonight is how to use this money in terms of focusing on large investments or spreading it across the many needs of our community. And from the city manager's presentation, you saw his recommendation was the latter because of how many great needs we have across this community. Fifth, again, looking at how this investment not only aids the local government's recovery from the pandemic, but also the ability to provide investments and growth in the future for our city. So really looking at that return on investment. And then finally, the list before you was generated by staff as well as work with the chamber, but this is really only a preliminary list of investment ideas. Not only do we need to wait for the final rule to come out, but we're definitely open and interested to hear from the community and the council about suggestions about adding to these ideas, deleting or amending any of these ideas. And we just look forward to a really positive and hearty policy discussion this evening at the various committees. We started off well at the Finance and Governance on staying at that policy level and looking for themes with what's important to the community and the council. So staff is available online, here to answer any questions if you have them, and looking forward to this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there was a pre-recorded message pursuant to, or a presentation pursuant to Measure M, so there won't be another presentation here, but I will open it to the committee members for any discussion. I'll start with Councilmember Madrigal.
Thank you very much. Going through the list, I know it's quite extensive, and I know that from the looks of things, it's as was previously stated, nothing but good news. There's many things on here. There's many other things that could possibly be on here. But we have to look at need and wants specifically. I just kind of focused on all the ones that had a 1 first, and I think that we could have a later discussion about the 2s. That's the way I kind of looked at it. Most of the ones I was perfectly fine with, everything that was on there, and I think it's something that we could do in a hurry and get done. There was a few of the ones that I had issues with, and I think it totaled a number of 8 of the ones. I'll start off. I know I'm gonna go a bit off order, but I'll kind of go with ones where it's just kind of something minor, and then go to the ones that I have certain issues with. The first one is actually number 33, and that is for the youth centers to get them new sports equipment, supplies, furniture, and computer centers. And with that one, whatever the price tag may be, maybe if it'll end up being a little bit higher, that's fine, but we need to look at things long term. We just can't be, get something new and within like 18 months, they look pretty bad. Just last week with the mayor, I went to the senior center and none of the computers there are functional. Every single computer there is missing something. And so we need to start looking at things that are better long-term for our community. That was one. I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm actually be perfectly okay if it was a little bit higher, as long as we got something that'll last a little bit longer. The second one was actually item number 6, which is the business attraction, assets, and gap analysis. And with that one, who are our partners? Who are we going to be working with? It seems like, great idea, just kind of, need a little bit more information. The third one is number 9, the temporary staffing for homeless and for housing. I'm okay with it, but at the same time, it's easy to give, but then this kind of, to me, seems like it's going to be like a permanent type of position. So, we have to look at it that way. Fourth is the number 5, item number 5, which is the community assessment to determine transitions to adulthood among Oxnard youth post-COVID-19. Who's doing this? Do they have a true understanding of our community? Who are our partners? I just don't want to be bunched up with a different community and this was the results, because then it truly doesn't show. I don't think it would be money well spent. Are you be working with the schools simply because they have a better interaction with the youth than what we do here at the city? The fifth one I do have an issue with is item number 26, which is the upgrade to the marquee at the PAC. I am perfectly fine with the marquee, but I just want to get that seismic study done first to make sure to know what is ahead of us. And, the parking lot, as was previously stated by some of the speakers, needs a lot of TLC. So I think it would be nice if we do all of that and then put the marquee up at the end. So I would actually prefer that to move to a 2 instead of a 1. The sixth one I have an issue with is number 8, the homeless acquisition of land for a homeless solution center in South Oxnard. When we were originally looking for a navigation center originally, when we were having difficulty finding any place in the city, the key focus was always, I brought it up, and this was way back 2018, 2019, let's have multiple navigation centers, and the answer was no, because then that just we need a central center. So if that's the case, what's changed from the initial discussion to now? So that's kind of like, I was kind of a little puzzled by that. The 7th one I do have an issue with, and that's number 43, the WAY funding program. How is it different from what we have already? And, if we're going to be adding new things, should we wait? Or I just don't want something to be obsolete, 3 years after we put it up. And then the last one that I had an issue with is number 22, and that's the golf course, the event space for golf courses to expand to the wedding business. I like the idea, but need to look at, what we have with the golf course. Are we going to be investing in something and then someone else is going to make the profit from it since it is leased out? So I would like a little bit more clarification as far as the golf course is concerned. And then I just had 2 minor things about 2 other ones. Number 36, which is library technology purchases. It said about purchasing laptops, specifically 100 Chromebooks. I know from experience that Chromebooks don't have a long life. So probably look at, what we could do there. And then the other one is actually number 62, the contactless payment kiosk for utility payments to be installed at the South Oxnard Center. Is there any possible way that we could install another one, maybe at the PAC or another part of the cities? Because I think that's a wonderful idea. And then let's see, from things that were labeled 2s that to me could possibly be 1s, one is number 54, which is the citywide ADA tree and sidewalk improvements. I know those, I think this is very important, especially to people who are still relying on this. And I know it's not just one part of the city, it's, all throughout the city where, we have issues with sidewalks and trees. And the second one is number 35, the bike and pedestrian project on Willie Road. That's protected for bike lanes. I know Willie Road's an easy way to get through the city from one part to the other in a car, but I can see how it's dangerous for pedestrians and for people on bicycles. Possible things that we could look at in the future also that weren't meant.
Council member, you went to mute. If we can have you check your mic one time.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm sorry, I don't even know when I went on mute. Did I talk about the bike project?
Right after number 35.
Pardon me?
Right after your comment about project 35, when you went to other things to look at it, went on mute.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. And two things that aren't on here at all, one of which we could possibly look at the apprenticeship program. And the second one is, which was actually one of the council priorities, just to see like a similar seismic study to the Carnegie Museum. And other than that, I think that's about it for all the ones. And 2s, I guess we could leave for the future.
Hey, you good?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Mayor, any comments?
Yeah, I mentioned my recommendations to the Finance Committee, Governance Committee this afternoon, and some of my recommendations were to focus on water and sewer infrastructure. For example, looking at the storm drain capture projects and Woodland Storage number 76. Also looking at the design for East Village, Del Sol Park, diversion infiltration and Oxnard Regional storm drains. Looking at the Ventura and 2nd Street diversion infiltration, Oxnard Regional storm drain. And also looking at all the storm drains, because my understanding is storm drains are, Mr. Chair, are now actually funded by general fund, and this would be an opportunity to take care of that infrastructure. And of course, also the other thing that I mentioned was the negative impacts to the household and small businesses, item number 40 through 68, to help small businesses, nonprofit organizations, equity focus and services in aid on an impact such as travel and hospitality, which is an income type producing units. And also my third item that I focused on was broadband infrastructure and making it necessary that we serve the underserved and the underserved and also individuals that are not served broadband, which I think is extremely important. Such areas like in South Oxnard or other areas that could not get internet that are extremely important to our children, especially with people that have to do work with laptops. And most of the school work now is probably the Councilmember Madrigal knows, is a lot of online work that the students have to do. And again, the other thing that I mentioned too, Mr. Chair, is that we would like to have all the residents give us as much input as we can, especially when we come back on the 29th, to give us additional information on what they think we ought to do with this funding that we're getting from the feds, unexpected funding and funding that we can really use and really help us a lot, And one of the things that I like to mention too, this one-time funding, we're going to get 2 payments for that. So I know that's very general information, Mr. Chair, but I mentioned that also to our staff at the Finance Committee, Governance Finance Committee this afternoon. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir. I just have some general comments. A lot of them have already been made. I just want to remind people that this is one-time money, and when it's used, and there's no more other than the second tranche, which will be in 2022. But also there's a couple of caveats with this money. One is that non-infrastructure projects and programs are required to be completed by December of 31st of 2024. So, and infrastructure projects have to be encumbered by December 31st of 2024. So we do have some target dates that we need to make sure we make to adequately utilize this money. And when you add up all the wishes in this list and all the money that's available, unfortunately, the figures don't match. And there's way more in the way of wishes than there is in the way of availability. So, and in the last column, there shows other potential funding sources that might be out there. So I think we need to maximize our investment to get the best purchase for our dollars or the government's dollars. I think technology is a great way to move forward with our community, but we need to make sure it's a technology that will be around for a while. Unfortunately, the technology scene is changing so rapidly. I remember starting out with 2G on my phone, and now we're up to 5G, and probably by the time I get this phone paid off, we'll be up to 10G, who knows? But you know, we need to make sure that if we do technology infrastructure, that it's something that's upgradable to the future, whatever that's going to be. And we don't know what that is. You know, I mean, I don't know how many of you watched the news last night, but Sir Richard Branson launched himself into space in a privately funded rocket vehicle. He's a much braver man than I am. I don't think he would find me in a little spherical object like that, launching myself out of the atmosphere just to say I did. But that's another discussion for another day. But
he's 70 years old, Mr.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a brave man. I don't know that, you know, well, I'll just leave that discussion going. So anyway, it really comes down to me. And I think some of the real critical needs that we look at as a city is part of the utility infrastructure, the water infrastructure. We're in an ongoing drought that is not showing any signs that it's going to end in the near future. You know, our reservoirs are, depending on who you talk to, but if you look at the pictures, our reservoirs are critically low. We need to find alternative sources of water, be it reclaiming more water through the AWPF. We have room to increase that facility by another 50%, I believe, something that will carry us to the future. And also something is a one-time investment where we don't incur any ongoing costs, because that's been a problem that we've had in the past. We undertake these programs and sell ourselves with continuing debt, and all of a sudden the funding source runs out, and we're sitting around scrambling, trying to figure out how we're going to survive and what we're going to cut and not cut. So I think we need to look at how we've done things in the past and make sure we don't repeat our misfortunes. But again, everybody has some excellent comments. I think for me, looking at it from the 60,000 foot level, it's a matter of how can we best use this money to get our community back to where we should have been several years ago and where we need to be again, and benefit all of the community, not just, you know, one neighborhood versus another neighborhood, that all the community benefits from this, and that, you know, we position ourselves well to move into the future. So Ms. Golden, I know those are kind of generic terms on my part, but I think everybody has provided information. Do you have enough to start out with to put something together for this to go to full council later on?
Mr. Chair, can I share?
Sure.
I'm sure that all the council members received a memo from other individuals, but especially Mr. Stephen Nash that sent an email to all of us regarding, you know, some of the items that he was looking at, like infrastructure, you know, and also the broadband, and also looking at revitalizing the corridor for the redevelopment of business from downtown all the way to Animi Road and the Service Road items. So this is what I'm saying, that Also, he looked at the pack, looking at the roofing, the pack, and a pedestrian bike path too, and looking at Heritage Square and the senior nutrition program and so forth. And also Mr. Poirier also sent a letter to all of us about fixing all the bathrooms and all the parks and lighting for the city parks, and hopefully looking at a swimming pool at Campus Park once it's done, and other ideas that he sent. And also Mr. Parkson, I can't find his memo that he sent. He was looking at the infrastructure for water, sewer, and potentially maybe looking at a great program and using some of the recycled water to make up, for the drought, and I can't find it in my paperwork right now, but there's some items here that were sent. So as mentioned initially, and you mentioned it too, Mr. Chair, that we need more input, if any, on the 29th from other residents too, regarding this expenditure of this monies. Thank you, sir.
Sure. And every council member received those letters along with from Mr. Poirier, Mr. Nash, Mr. Torres, and there were a couple others in the packet that I got. They were sent to all council members. We all have them. So it's going to be an interesting discussion come the final, when we're still waiting for the feds to finalize what is an allowable use and what isn't. Exactly. Although we have a pretty good estimate as what they'll allow and won't allow until they stamp it final. We're still a little bit in a guessing game. So, Ms. Golden, do you need any more information from us at this point, or?
No, I would like to take a moment to respond. Councilman Madrigal brought up a series of questions on projects, and I just wanted to state we've noted all those. We don't know the answers to all of those right now. We're really waiting for those final determination of the guidelines to come out in August to even look to see if all of these projects will fit under the final rule. But we will get more information and refine the project list as we get additional community and council input, as well as those final guidelines on the projects. What we're really hoping to gather here this evening, which we've had a good discussion so far, are themes, within those 6 categories that the funding can be used for, or within your council priorities. Where would you like to see the money invested? And then we can refine those projects. And that was articulated clearly here. But Councilman Madrigal, we will follow up on a lot of the questions of who are the partners within the projects, what do they mean, the timing and whatnot, and refine that when we come back to council in the fall in September after those guidelines are presented and we can read through them. So really good points of discussion. I appreciate the discussion this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the request was that we provide some initial input and forward this matter to council for a full discussion. So what would be the pleasure of the committee?
So move.
Second.
Hey, Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second to forward our comments and this discussion, our concerns to the full council. Roll call, please.
It's a receiving file.
Okay. Chair, may I please have who made the motion and who seconded, please?
Mayor Zaragoza made the motion and the second was by Oscar Montreal. Sorry. And Mr. Mayor, would be receiving file, but since we're being asked to forward it to council, that technically is an action. So I think it's safer to just do a vote.
Thank you.
Chair McDonald.
Aye.
Member Madrigal.
Aye.
Member Zaragoza.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Takes us to item E, items for future agendas. Do the committee members have any items for future agendas?
None for me.
Not at this moment.
Okay, thank you. I do have one item. I did talk to Ms. Golden about it earlier today. In the northwest area of the city, generally between the golf course and Oxnard Boulevard and Gonzales Road and River Park, we seem to be having a series of vegetation fires. I think the number was somewhere around 34 vegetation fires in the last 6 months. So, I originally had talked to Ms. Golden thinking that I might ask for that to come back to the Public Safety Committee for a review and see what we're doing. It seems like an inordinate number, but She tells me that there are discussions going on among staff right now about this issue. So I don't know that it's necessary to come back, and I don't want to get into a long, prolonged discussion because it's not agendized. But Ms. Golden, any comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair McDonald. This is an issue that I believe many of the community members up in the north part of the city, as well as council, hears about. We have an internal ongoing discussion with the fire department, the police department, the homeless program out of the housing department, as well as coordination with the county offices. And we'd actually be happy to bring an item back in the fall, similar to our Halico response of what we're doing in response to this, because it is a very coordinated and collaborative effort, both with long-term projects as well as short-term projects, including weekly social service outreach up in that area. So I think it actually would be good for both the public and the council to have a discussion in the fall, just to understand the work product that's and the efforts that are going in to address the impacts of homelessness in that area.
Okay, with that statement, then we will ask that it come back to the committee for an agendized discussion. So.
And Mr. Chair, I think it's appropriate because we're working with District 1 also in that from the county of Ventura. And that I think it'd be a good discussion for all of us. Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I don't want to get into too much more discussion because
Absolutely.
It's not agendized, and I don't want somebody from the other side of the river yelling at me for that. So
Thank you.
thank you. If there's no further business, then we will call for an adjournment. So thank you all for your participation. Have a good evening, and this meeting is adjourned.